Jesus Michael will always remain invisible to those on earth and can be seen only by the 144,000 select Jehovah's Witnesses who rule with him from heaven.
If you should choose to accept the Watchtower's current prophecy of Armageddon, whatever that may be, and decide to protect yourself by becoming a Jehovah's Witness, you will find yourself in a unique two-class religion.
Only the upper class, the 144,000 spoken of in Revelation, are guaranteed a place in heaven, and they are known as the anointed. The Watchtower Society teaches that the vast majority of Jehovah's Witnesses constitute a secondary group referred to as the other sheep. They have no heavenly hope, but must remain on earth for all eternity.
Once a year, on the anniversary of the Last Supper, Jehovah's Witnesses and invited persons gather for this communion-like ceremony. Only members of the anointed class who are alive today, about 9,000 worldwide, partake of the bread and wine. The millions of other sheep will not take communion. The other sheep are not in the new covenant and therefore have no personal relationship with Jesus Christ. How then do they hope to attain salvation?
The Jehovah's Witness is told he may not look to Jesus alone for everlasting life. As one of the other sheep, he must also depend on the Watchtower organization for his passage to paradise. In turn, the organization says he's required to earn his salvation largely by calling door to door.
It's strange, but they seem able to teach two different things, opposite things, simultaneously. They agree that the Bible teaches that we are saved by grace, or, as they put it, God's undeserved kindness, and not by works. And yet the average witness believes, he hasn't the slightest doubt, that unless he performs the works that are laid out for him by the Watchtower Society, the witnessing activity, going door to door, regular meeting attendance, and other things that are brought out, that he will never gain everlasting life.
Once in the organization, witnesses attend 5 hours of meetings a week. In addition, they are expected to devote many hours a month going door to door, selling literature and gaining converts, striving always to prove themselves worthy of escaping God's wrath at Armageddon.
Even though we believe that God was love, we were always afraid that he was going to zap us, that sometime Armageddon might hit and we might not make it. Even if we didn't go out from the door-to-door ministry on a weekend and took our family out to the lake or something, we didn't go out from door to door, we felt guilty all the time.
In order to keep a close check on the activities of each member, the organization requires them to turn in a monthly time report if they want to be retained on the rolls as active Jehovah's Witnesses.
We don't keep any membership records per se, but the only record we have is those who actually go door to door preaching.
Today, when the new Jehovah's Witness is baptized, rather than using the biblical format of baptizing in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, the witness is baptized in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Spirit-directed organization.
This is a dedication to them that is without any reservation. They are now going to set their entire life aside to do their Creator's will.
Thus baptized, the Jehovah's Witness is now committed to slave for the organization until the world comes to an end.
Jehovah's Witnesses exist in a rigid, structured, thou shalt not environment. They are forbidden to vote or hold elective office, celebrate holidays, belong to the YMCA or YWCA, salute the flag, sing the national anthem, or participate in other patriotic activities. They can't serve in the military or work for a military organization. They may not accept blood transfusions, read anything critical of the Watchtower Society, or associate with former Jehovah's Witnesses. They are forbidden to even attend church.
If life is narrow for the adult witness, the problem is greatly intensified for their school-age children. The Watchtower Society has published a book entitled School and Jehovah's Witnesses. It defines for schools what activities witness children are forbidden to participate in. Things like birthday celebrations, Christmas and Easter, sports, Mother's or Father's Day, Valentine's Day or Thanksgiving, saluting the flag or school dances, singing the national anthem, or saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands.
Children are real victims in this. Jehovah's Witness children cannot participate in many of the normal school activities, and as a result are often mocked by their classmates. They are really torn because on one hand they want to please their parents, and on the other hand they want to be accepted by their teachers and classmates. There is no way they can win. They are literally torn apart emotionally. I know this firsthand because my own daughter cried nearly every day in school from the first time she entered until an extremely loving teacher made her feel at ease in the 4th grade. The life of a witness child is very isolated because playing with non-witness schoolmates and neighborhood children is considered bad association.
The Watchtower Society presents Jehovah's Witnesses as clean, happy, and unquestionably moral.
The Bible has a lot to say about family life, and the reason Jehovah's Witnesses have such happy families is because we try to apply the principles that are found in the Bible.
This protects them from many of the pressures and the problems that affect a family life today. For example, Jehovah's Witnesses, while not immune to the pressures and problems, are able to cope with the difficulties that husbands and wives face, that children are confronted with every day. And so we have a very low incidence of family dissolving or juvenile delinquency, drug abuse, and alcoholism. And that shows the benefit and the profit of following God's Word closely.
Former Jehovah's Witnesses disagree.
Growing up as a child within Jehovah's Witnesses, I always thought that this was God's clean organization. But when I got older, I found out that there were divorces, there was gross immorality within the congregations, and that we were actually no different than the ones we were condemning.
As an elder, I saw the seedy side of the congregation. Members would come to me with their problems, and I found out that even elders were involved sometimes in crooked business practices and in immorality. And I began to discover that we were really no better than the people on the outside of the organization.
When I left Bethel, it was hard for me to even share with my mother and father what was going on up there, the drunken parties that went on, and the homosexuality and things like this.
Finally, the Watchtower had to admit that immorality had spread to the highest levels of the organization, saying, shocking as it is, even some who have been prominent in Jehovah's organization have succumbed to immoral practices, including homosexuality, wife-swapping, and child molesting. Alcoholism, depression, and mental disorders among Jehovah's Witnesses have come to the attention of psychiatric professionals. Dr. Jerry Bergman is a former Jehovah's Witness and a trained psychologist.
In my experience in working for a number of psychiatric clinics as a therapist, I've worked with many Jehovah's Witnesses, and I find that many of them suffer from severe emotional problems, from schizophrenia, from severe depression, alcoholism, and other problems. I've also consulted the scientific literature on this question, and I found that it clearly confirms that the mental illness rate among the witnesses is clearly above average.
One of the most intimidating devices used by the Watchtower Society is the threat of appearing before a judicial committee of elders. Public censure, even disfellowshipping, can be the sentence of this powerful court. The inflexibility of Watchtower policies has led to thousands of instances of mental distress, even suicide. Dottie Hike's family experienced the cold steel of Watchtower doctrine when her 16-year-old son Billy became romantically involved with a married Jehovah's Witness woman. Conscience-stricken, Billy turned to his parents.
He was very upset, extremely distraught, and he just didn't know what to do. And he was making statements like, I just can't go on. I just can't face this. And he was threatening to commit suicide. My husband and I talked with him for hours and did everything and said everything we knew to do to try to get him to realize that there's no situation too bad that you can't face. But things just were not getting any better. So as witnesses, you're taught not to seek the professional help of anyone. So we felt our hands were so tied we didn't know what to do.
The family turned to an elder of the congregation for help. The elder called Billy outside, and his parents felt a solution was near. But their hopes were short-lived.
We felt the elder would really have some kind of words of consolation for him, even though no one condoned what he had done. This boy was reaching out for help, and he did need someone to console him. And he felt so guilty and so at a loss. And instead the elder just said, the committee will deal with you tomorrow. He went out to my husband's truck, where he kept a small amount of paraquat in a container. And Billy took the paraquat and he took one swallow of it. We had him in the hospital within 20 minutes. Exactly 3 weeks later, he died.
Did the witness congregation respond with compassion to this tragedy? Billy's sister, Rhonda.
When he died, it really devastated me. At his memorial service, none of his friends that he'd known all of his life were able to attend, and that really hurt me. The Jehovah's Witnesses claim to bring the families together. Through them, my brother killed himself. My mother tried to kill herself. My 2 sisters and my brother will not speak to me. My grandmother will not speak to me. She wouldn't let me see my grandfather before he passed away. They didn't bring our family close together. They nearly totally destroyed it.
While the members of the governing body may escape blame for the death of one desperate boy, they can hardly escape responsibility for their policies in the African country of Malawi. Policies that left thousands of witnesses raped, homeless, or dead.
In the mid-1960s, in the African country of Malawi, all citizens were ordered by the government to purchase a 25-cent party identification card. Jehovah's Witnesses were forbidden by the Watchtower Society's branch office from complying with that law. As a result, Jehovah's Witnesses suffered a terrible persecution. Homes and crops were burned, thousands of women were raped, and some 20,000 witnesses were forced to flee Malawi into neighboring countries to live in refugee camps, their lives scarred forever.
Now, Jehovah's Witnesses are taught that it's a sin to be involved in any way with politics. They're also taught that it's just as great a sin to have anything to do with the military. But we have 2 situations, one in a country in Africa, Malawi, and another in Mexico, where 2 opposite rulings were allowed to stay in effect at the same time, and it's almost unbelievable, the results of this.
When Jehovah's Witnesses living in Mexico heard that their brothers had suffered this terrible persecution over a 25-cent party card, they were conscience-stricken.
Because in Mexico, every young man is expected to fulfill 1 year of military service. He receives what's called a cartilla, a certificate. The witnesses customarily and regularly would bribe a military official to fill out this card stating that they had completed their military instruction and that they were now in the first reserves of the Army. Why were they doing this? They gave me copies of letters from the Watchtower Society's headquarters in New York stating that this was purely a matter for individual conscience, and that if the person felt he could do this, pay a bribe to a military official, get this card saying he had completed his military training and was now a member of the First Reserves, this was up to him.
Jehovah's Witnesses believe the men who make up the governing body are chosen and directed by God. Yet out of apparent indifference or ignorance or worse, the governing body allowed witnesses to illegally bribe officials while at the same time holding others to a policy that resulted in their wholesale rape and slaughter. It's difficult for me to believe these actions were inspired by God.
The control tentacles of the governing body extend even into the life and death world of medical treatment.
In the 17th chapter of Leviticus, in the 10th verse, it states that one should not eat blood of any sort. This means that God does not want us to sustain our life off of the life of some other creature. And that for that reason, because God has forbidden it, we abstain from taking blood.
The blood issue in the back of our minds was bothering us because as Jehovah's Witnesses, if we freely gave a blood transfusion to our daughter, we'd be excommunicated, we'd be disfellowshipped. Well, the doctors finally came to our room and it was just like an ultimatum. They said, listen, we know from our records that you're a Jehovah's Witness. We know that you don't take blood transfusions. And the doctor looked me straight in the eye and said, Mr. and Mrs. Blizzard, you have to make a decision, yes or no, whether your child lives or dies. I remember going over to the bed and she had these cords and wires keeping her alive, life support systems, and holding this limp child that was our only daughter, and just going over to the window and looking out and watching the clouds and the sky and just started to weep. And I said, oh God, Jehovah, and I prayed to Jehovah.
We just had a real distinct impression that we were supposed to obey God's law and go by what we had always been taught, and that we were to let our daughter die. And so we just called the doctors back in and told them that we had just had to let her die, that we had to obey God's law.
About a half an hour later, a sheriff deputy came to our room and gave my wife and I both citations, and they told us that a court order has already been issued. Your daughter is going to get the blood, and they also warned the staff of the hospital not to allow us to take Jenny out of the hospital.
And we were charged with child neglect and abuse.
The witnesses, there was multitudes of them that came up to the room, just swarmed the room, tried to give us watchtower articles about artificial blood, and you just can't let your child take that blood, and just putting this heavy guilt trip on us. The elders were relieved to find out that there was still time to get Jenny out of the hospital, and they would come up to me and say, hey, I've got a plan. We can get her, we can hire a helicopter, we can sneak her out of this hospital, just unhook the tubes, and we're gone. And I said, wait a minute. You can't do that. It's against the law. I'll be charged with murder. They said, that's a chance you're going to have to take. And I just told them, look, I just can't let my child die in that way. And the elders were just so upset. They left in a huff. They were mad. And one of the elders said on the way out, he looked me in the eye and said, you know what? I hope your daughter gets hepatitis from that blood. And that was just the straw that broke the camel's back. I was just broken here. My own people, God's organization, turning against me, cursing me, because I just wanted to see my child live. And so they left. And we were all alone. Even my own parents didn't come see us.
I think many times Jehovah's Witnesses have really never thought the blood thing through. It's either right or it's wrong. If it's wrong, the Watchtower Society is guilty of causing the deaths of thousands of people. That's wrong. It's evil.
I think the evil needs to be seen for what it is. It's this concept, this organizational concept, that the organization is everything. You see, Jehovah's Witnesses believe that this organization is God's one channel, that all of God's direction for people on the earth comes through this channel. And the men on the governing body believe it. I believed it. And that's the reason I was party to some things in the past that today I feel shame to think that I even had part in them.
If the governing body of the Watchtower Society holds and enjoys the power, then they must also bear the responsibility. The truth is, they don't. Nothing better illustrates this than their false prophecy concerning 1975.
Well, when the Society brought out the date 1975, I felt right away that this is going to be the date when the thing has to happen, because there was no other date beyond 1975 that anybody could point to. So I grabbed right a hold of it. It was a thing to do, and I put all my hopes in it.
By the mid-60s, The Watchtower Society had all but guaranteed that the world would come to an end in 1975. It was a prophecy that would bring in a flood of new members, and the organization prospered. But it would have other effects on the ordinary Jehovah's Witness.
We thought Armageddon was coming in 1975. So I did not have a career. I didn't go to college because the end was so close. There was no need. The new world would be here.
I was a senior in high school, and the circuit overseer, which is a traveling minister, advised me that it's best for you to quit school and go into full-time pioneer work because the world is going to end in 1975.
We felt so strongly about the imminent approach of 1975 and that this whole system was coming to an end. We sold our home in Lower Michigan, moved north, built a Kingdom Hall, and there we intended to live out those few remaining years, having saved just enough money to go a few years beyond 1975. And so it was a great disappointment and distress when this event that the Watchtower had prophesied did not materialize.
I wanted to get married. I wanted to have children. But because the end was so close, when Fred and I got married, we decided that we would postpone having children. So I believe we sacrificed a lot within the organization. But when the end of the world didn't come in 1975, and that prophecy of the Watchtower failed, I began to wonder if they were wrong on this, how many others are they wrong on?
And once again, Watchtower fact was revealed as nothing more than contrived fantasy.
Jehovah's Witnesses tried to get an explanation, but were unsuccessful. Apparently, for the governing body, nothing is so invisible as an unpleasant truth. Today, they are quick to deny their prophecies for the end of the world.
We do not, nor have we attempted, to predict a day or a time for it.
The history and prophecies of the Watchtower Society are easily revealed as fabrications and distortions by simply reading the material they've published from the beginning.
Their greatest enemy is their own literature, which clearly shows the man-made nature of their theology. Jehovah's Witness leaders have continually covered up and rewritten their ever-changing doctrines, each time presenting them as new light. The one thing the Watchtower Society cannot tolerate in the organization is critical thinking. That's why they forbid their followers to read any material which might expose their deceptions.
Really shocked me to my core was this, and every other Jehovah's Witness listening to this, is that we were so convinced that the leadership, the governing body, would never tell one lie. They would always speak the truth, no matter what the truth was. That is a fabrication. It is a lie. They have lied to us. They have deceived us, and we have the documented evidence. And because we've spoken about it, we were silenced or threatened to be silenced. And that's what will happen to any Jehovah's Witness listening to this program. And he knows it in his heart. He knows it in his heart.
I saw in the body that most of our time was spent discussing the formation of new rulings, all designed to keep the witnesses in and to keep bad people out, to act as that kind of a fence. And again, the decisions had absolutely no basis in the Bible.
The witness who breaks these executive commandments is subject to disfellowshipping, the Watchtower's word for excommunication.
Jehovah's Witnesses practice removing those who refuse to conform to right principles from among themselves. The Bible refers to this and supports this practice as preventing leaven or false thinking or teaching from entering into the congregation, thereby maintaining its purity or its cleanliness.
I went to a Christian church with my husband, and they disfellowshipped me for that.
They believe that when you leave the organization, you go to the devil anyway, but if you ever join a church, this is the ultimate sin. They believe that it's committing spiritual fornication with the devil.
In my job assignment at the Brooklyn Bethel headquarters, I would often process disfellowshippings which came in from all the various congregations in the United States. And they literally amounted to hundreds that would come in every week. It just shows the magnitude of the number of people that are disfellowshipped by the organization. And of course, careful records are kept on all of this, and including all the intimate details of what the individual did, what kind of offense it was. Mainly they are sex offenses, but there are other offenses too, like smoking, perhaps celebrating the holidays, things like that, that people also got disfellowship for.
If one actually becomes a dissenter to the point of becoming apostate, then we follow the Bible counsel and we never invite him into our house or would say a greeting to him.
If a person resigns, they are treated exactly the same as a person who is disfellowshipped. When my husband and I resigned by sending in a letter of disassociation, we were not merely dropped from membership. We were actually shunned as being evil.
Even today, if a Jehovah's Witness is caught associating with us, they are subject to being disfellowshipped themselves. There is no honorable way out of this religion.
Because of the way that they had treated my family, I disassociated myself from the Watchtower Society, never dreaming that my children would refuse to have anything to do with me. In fact, I have a little 2-year-old grandson that I've never even seen.
My 2 children and my 5 grandchildren are forbidden to see me, their grandmother, because of the Watchtower. What kind of organization, going under the heading of Christian, would disallow the children and grandchildren to see their mother and grandmother?
Every person will recognize the Watchtower's practice of shunning as a cold, unloving, evil thing.
The lives of the disfellowshipped are filled with the chill of loneliness, the never-ending sadness of separation from family members. To find something to believe in, to trust in, is very hard.
Since I believed that they were the only channel to God, I couldn't bring myself to come to any other church, to search for God in any other way.
Normally, Jehovah's Witnesses are taught that when they leave the organization, there's nowhere to go. But my wife and I, through Bible reading, found out that we could go to Christ. And that's what we have done.
After I'd ran across some literature that exposed their false prophecies and their deceitful ways of covering them up, I then was able to realize that they weren't God's organization, and I was able to search for God. And I found Jesus Christ, and He is my personal Savior, and He's changed my life just 100%.
We just prayed and gave our heart to Jesus, and it seemed like it was such a simple answer, but that was what we've been searching for all our life. And it wasn't an organization, it was Jesus. It was a personal relationship with Jesus that we didn't have before.
We knew at that very moment that our names were written in the Lamb's Book of Life. It was a free gift, eternal life just given to us, and all those works that we did, all the thousands of hours that we put in for an organization, all the hard striving was finished. And just grace saved us through faith, just a simple act of obedience and prayer and asking the Lord to take over. And just filled us with joy and peace, a joy that we never had as a witness.
Marjorie and I spent many years working for the Watchtower Society, but it wasn't until we left the organization that we discovered the real meaning of God's love. Our experience says to us that there's another ministry out there for Christians, a ministry that will come knocking on their door.
The Jehovah's Witness who comes to your door is a person who's lost his way. If you're prepared, you can reach out and show him what true Christian fellowship is.
It's been a long journey for us, but we don't think it's been wasted. The remainder of our years are going to be all the more precious to us, because now we have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. We finally came to realize that eternal life is a free gift. God's grace was all we needed. Just grace.
And therefore have no personal relationship with Jesus Christ. How then do they hope to attain salvation?
The Jehovah's Witness is told he may not look to Jesus alone for everlasting life. As one of the other sheep, he must also depend on the Watchtower organization for his passage to paradise. In turn, the organization says he's required to earn his salvation largely by calling door to door.
It's strange, but they seem able to teach two different things, opposite things, simultaneously. They agree that the Bible teaches that we are saved by grace, or, as they put it, God's undeserved kindness, and not by works. And yet, the average witness believes, he hasn't the slightest doubt, that unless he performs the works that are laid out for him by the Watchtower Society,
being a Jehovah's Witness, you will find yourself in a unique two-class religion.
Only the upper class, the 144,000 spoken of in Revelation, are guaranteed a place in heaven, and they are known as the anointed. The Watchtower Society teaches that the vast majority of Jehovah's Witnesses constitute a secondary group referred to as the other sheep. They have no heavenly hope, but must remain on earth for all eternity.
Once a year, on the anniversary of the Last Supper, Jehovah's Witnesses and invited persons gather for this communion-like ceremony. Only members of the anointed class who are alive today, about 9,000 worldwide, partake of the bread and wine. The millions of other sheep will not take communion. The other sheep are not in the new covenant. Michael, will always remain invisible to those on earth and can be seen only by the 144,000 select Jehovah's Witnesses who rule with him from heaven.
If you should choose to accept the Watchtower's current prophecy of Armageddon, whatever that may be, and decide to protect yourself by becoming...
In order to keep a close check on the activities of each member, the organization requires them to turn in a monthly time report if they want to be retained on the rolls as active Jehovah's Witnesses.
We don't keep any membership records per se, but the only record we have is those who actually go door-to-door preaching.
Today, when the new Jehovah's Witness is baptized, rather than using the biblical format of baptizing in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, the witness is baptized in the name of the Father, the Son.
The witnessing activity, going door to door, regular meeting attendance, and other things that are brought out, that he will never gain everlasting life.
Once in the organization, witnesses attend 5 hours of meetings a week. In addition, they are expected to devote many hours a month going door to door, selling literature and gaining converts, striving always to prove themselves worthy of escaping God's wrath at Armageddon.
Even though we believed that God was love, we were always afraid that he was going to zap us, that sometime Armageddon might hit and we might not make it. Even if we didn't go out from the door-to-door ministry on a weekend and took our family out to the lake or something, we didn't go out from door to door, we felt guilty all the time.